So the Miami Dolphins do not beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but it was a bit of a weird game. I actually thought they had a real chance to win this football game and just beat themselves in a lot of ways. Of course, the botched, final play, that was kind of the perfect example of that. But there were a lot of times when I thought really Miami had open players and just weren't able to get it done. So, in some ways, I'm actually not even that discouraged if I'm a Miami fan, because you clearly shown that you can beat a good football team if you just play your best football. The flip side, though, is they have to play their best football, and Kansas City's defense is very good. So we'll get into all of what went right for the Chiefs defense and what went wrong for the Dolphins offense, and some of what went right for the Dolphins offense as well. Let's just get into it. Let's start off with this play, because, we got to talk about it, right? It took them, 40 minutes of football game to finally get points on the board. What went wrong? There was a lot of beating themselves in this game. And the Chiefs defense is very good. The Chiefs defense definitely was part of what was keeping the Dolphins, off the scoreboard. But when Miami had opportunities, they were missing them. Like something like this, it's a 1st down and 10. You're right outside field goal range. And you have one of those classic Miami Dolphins concepts, right? Where you have a player who's going to kind of run out towards the flat. I actually have it wrong on the screen. It's Tyreek Hill going to be running out to the flat, the guy in motion, not the player lined up in the backfield. But anyway, watch how because of that in the zone coverage, Kansas City paying attention to that more underneath route, meaning that down the field you have an opening for a 1st down, right? This is the threat of Tyreek Hill to some degree, getting players to focus on him and not focus on the player who's already down the field, right? It's kind of one of those logical inconsistencies that you fall for sometimes. Oh man, we can't let Tyreek Hill get down the field, so we have to make sure we stop him, and therefore leaving the guy who's already down the field open, right? However, here, Tua, that just looked like a misfire, hard tackle there as well. But I think Tua, really, you got to throw that one a little bit more underneath, I believe. Although, again, it's a little bit tough because his receiver did slow down a little bit. And I wonder if that was just a communication issue more than anything. But to me, I think that's actually the right call to slow down there. I think given the setup, that's what I would want a receiver to do. I would put this one on Tua. But again, it's just it's these little consistencies, not being as clean, ending up beating yourself. Could have had a field goal, if not more, on this drive. Instead, they ended up having to punt. Something like this is another example where what's going to happen is it's going to be, I believe this is actually zone coverage right here, but it's Tyreek Hill running a route that's going to be, further down the field on this 2nd down and 10. Watch as when Tua runs this play action, you're going to see him look down the field. He fires down the field. And at this point, there is a window. This is open. And these are the kind of things that we've seen Miami hit on, all day long. Make this catch. You can at least get in field goal range here. Instead, this is just really a drop pass there by Tyreek Hill, a really weird situation. You don't see him drop too many passes. And again, this is kind of one of those situations where, you're beating yourself. You're playing a good football team. These are the plays that you really want to make sure that you hit on, because it's going to be really tough to come back if you don't hit on these. And again, you got to give credit to Kansas City for forcing Miami to make the plays. But still, I think we're used to seeing Miami make these plays, and this time they're just not. Something like this is another interesting example where, so again, the situation, you have 47 seconds left, but it's a running clock, so it's about to be a little bit less than that. You're down 14, but you're in field goal range. Again, even in the first half when they got shut out, they had drives where they were moving the ball. This time they're going with just a quick wide receiver screen. And really what we're going to see is just a tremendous play from Trent McDuffie, in my opinion. Watch as when Tua takes the snap, you had a player trying to block McDuffie, but McDuffie just read the play so quickly, he got over there and was able to, quickly get in position to make this tackle. So while a lot of people are getting on Tyreek Hill, and I kind of get it, right? It's the Chiefs revenge game thing. I understand why that's going to be talked about. At the same time, if you're a wide receiver on this play, this is a tough play, right? Really, you have to make sure you just hold on to the football and go down at this point. But again, Tyreek Hill's just looking down the field. You got to secure the catch first, and next thing you know, there's a defender right in your face. It's difficult. Tyreek Hill ends up, fumbling the football, gets picked up. You're going to see that right here. Defender does a good little, flip to keep the play going. I don't know exactly how much I like that decision, and I paused it here just for copyright reasons and to talk about it for a second. I don't know how much I love the idea of lateraling, but I feel like there's times when it makes sense. Again, you don't want to do I believe it was Brandon Marshall who tried to lateral and just threw it off of his own knee and ended up being fumbled. Those are never good. You got to be careful. But in this situation, it feels worth it, right? At the end of the half, sure, take a chance when you're tied up like that. It would end up getting returned all the way for a touchdown. So, good stuff there by Kansas City. Of course, you got to give credit to the defense, right? But again, these little miscues of if you're able to make that block, if you're able to, make that throw on the first play and, make that catch on the second play. I mean, again, as bad as that first half was, they ended up being down 21-0 at the end of the first half. It would have been, if they just got field goals on all those drives, then it's 14-9, right? And that's assuming you only get field goals. You get one touchdown, then it's 14-13. I mean, as bad as it was, a couple of miscues away from being a pretty solid half of football from Miami. This play was, I thought, huge in this sort of comeback that would happen where, obviously, things haven't gone well, but they were able to eventually drive the ball here on this drive, not have those penalties that are killing them, not having those mistakes that are killing them. And then this play was really a fascinating play, I thought, by Miami. And this is an interesting play because, so much of what they try to do is not try to get guys to win one-on-one on the outside, right? It's the opposite. It's let's run some razzle-dazzle. Let's, get guys open in gaps in coverage, even if it's Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle who can win on the outside. Let's try to have it happen in, different ways. This is, in many ways, trying to get a one-on-one matchup with Cedric Wilson on the outside. They know they're going to get a one-on-one matchup here because it's a cover 3 zone, and they're going to run a lot of razzle-dazzle, so that classic Miami stuff. They're still getting a one-on-one matchup on the outside in their own Miami Dolphins way. But the main thing I want to talk about now is just the setup. Since it's a cover 3 zone, there's only a single safety deep, and with Tyreek Hill on the other side running a deeper route, that safety just isn't going to be over Cedric Wilson. He's just not. You know that. Even though he's currently shaded on that side of the field, he's not going to be on that side of the field. Tua knows this. So watch Tua again. You're going to see him run a play action, kind of looks over towards his left, gets the safety out of position. He was never throwing there, though. I mean, okay, if the safety wasn't over there, he would have, but he quickly knew that wasn't going to happen. Gets over to Cedric Wilson Jr. All that stuff, this is by design. One slight issue, I know it's a little blurry here. Sorry, it was the best still frame I could find. Not really that open, though. Not a ton of separation. You need Cedric Wilson to go up and find the football. But this is exactly what he does. And again, we can talk about play calling all we want, and we should. Mike McDaniel's awesome at it, obviously. But at the end of the day, you still need players to make plays, and that's what Tua did here with a really catchable football. But really, that's what Cedric Wilson Jr. did here, and we got to give him some credit. I know, obviously, when you play on a team with Waddle and Hill, those are the guys who are going to get all the credit. And again, the threat of Tyreek Hill on some of these plays is what's kind of, getting guys open, even if they're not always catching them. On this play, doesn't help about Tyreek Hill's stats or anything like that, but he had a big impact in it, and then Cedric Wilson was the guy who was able to, in the situation where he's been put in a position to succeed, he was able to make the play happen. We did see a bit of an emergence of Tyreek Hill, on this play, for example. I don't want to say emergence. I mean, he's obviously key, but, something like this, it's a 3rd down and 5. I really thought that the Dolphins were going to score on this drive. It just felt like that was going to happen, right? Where quick slant route over the middle. There is a Kansas City defensive back who's looks like he's supposed to cover over the middle, but is, with this weird disguise. Quite frankly, I think this is a bad play call by Kansas City. I'm not sure what they're doing. They essentially just took a defender out of the play. So Tyreek Hill, one-on-one over the middle, is all by himself. You can't let this happen. Right when this play begins, you see there's Hill gets that inside leverage right away, and there is this window to make this throw. And this is just the insane value of Tyreek Hill, right? He can get the ball out of a quarterback's hands immediately. And, not to make a larger point here, but I will anyway. When people talk about offensive line play and, what's more important, having a good receiver or having a good offensive lineman, to me, this is why I always take the good wide receiver. If you can get your first read open immediately, it doesn't matter how well or poorly you're blocking. We're actually blocking pretty well on this one, but there is actually, there is a kind of with the blitz, it was a bit of there is a players getting through free, but it doesn't matter because Tua is getting the ball out of his hands right now. As you see, Tua was able to make that throw. Unfortunately for Miami, they were not able to score on this drive. They had to punt it due to moving backwards. Again, kind of, what the game was for Miami. Made a lot of steps forward, but a lot of steps backwards as well. But this just goes to show how valuable Tyreek is. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on what happened, what went wrong for Miami. Again, a tough loss, but I actually think that this is, again, especially how that first half went, everyone was saying the Dolphins were frauds. I think to me this shows the Dolphins are not frauds, in my opinion. They have to play better football, but I actually think that there's, you can even make some comparisons to, if you remember, in 2020, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season. Yes, they lost, but found some things in that game that helped them eventually beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Part of me wonders if this is maybe a scenario like that for the Dolphins, although I wouldn't quite say it's as strong, and just because that happened in that game doesn't mean it's going to happen this season as well, obviously. But yeah, not a discouraging loss for Miami. If you're a Miami fan, I'm going to talk you off the ledge. But again, for the Chiefs, your defense is still very good. You want to get your offense under control, but your defense is still good enough to, have you with currently, as of recording this video, the best record in the AFC. Two teams have a chance to, win a game and tie that best record in the AFC later today. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.